Hello and welcome to Nikolay's genetics lessons, and today's problem I got from one of my subscribers, and here's a problem. The histogram summarizes the outcomes of simulations of random mating in population. This is two allele system with dominant allele B and recessive allele B, and n equals 5. And here's questions, and here's a histogram. First of all, I want to recommend you to pause video here, try to solve this problem on your own first, and when you would be ready, you can run video again and you can compare your answer with my answer and explanation. The first source of your mistake can be thinking that this is pentaploid organism with 5 chromosomes, but actually n stands for the number of chromosomes in gametes. So if in gametes we can find 5 homologous chromosomes, that means in somatic cells or 2n, we will find 10 homologous chromosomes. One more time, it is very important to not understand 2n as diploid. 2n means here decaploid, and n here means haploid. Haploid number of decaploid organism is going to be 5 chromosomes in gametes. For example, in egg or sperm cell. So here we have decaploid plant or animal. I don't know such animals, but plants can be decaploid, for example, strawberry. And in gametes we will find 5 homologous chromosomes. And in somatic cells we will find 10 homologous chromosomes. Now, in order to answer these questions, we have to analyze this histogram. For example, in order to answer the question how many populations are fixed. And here's the results of my analysis, which I prepared in order to save a time. So what we see here, for example, in the first column, here is the number of populations, and again on this axis we have number of dominant B alleles after 10 generations. 0 here represents 0 number of dominant B alleles, and we have 4 such populations. 4 populations have 0 dominant B alleles. That means they are fixed for the recessive B allele. All 10 alleles are going to be small b allele in 4 populations. Now let's analyze this bar. What we see here that after 10 generations in 2 populations would be 2 dominant B alleles, and that means that the rest alleles, so out of 10, 2 would be dominant B alleles. That means that the rest 8 have to be recessive B allele. Now let's analyze this third bar here, and as you see, here would be 3 dominant B alleles, and how many populations? This is going to be half bar between 2 and 4, that means 3 populations. So 3 populations have 3 dominant alleles and the rest, or 7, recessive B alleles. Now let's analyze this bar. So what we see here that 4 populations have 5 dominant B alleles. 4 populations have 5 dominant B alleles, and that means have 5 recessive B alleles. Next bar, we have 1 population where we can find 6 dominant alleles. 1 population has 6 dominant B alleles. That means the rest 4 alleles are going to be recessive B alleles. And the last bar, as you see, we have 8 populations which has all 10 alleles, dominant alleles B. 8 populations have 10 dominant allele Bs. These are fixed for B dominant allele and have 0 recessive B alleles. So our answer for the first question, how many populations are fixed, would be 12 populations. Take a look. For example, 4 populations have 0 dominant B alleles. They are fixed for the recessive allele B, and all 10 alleles are going to be recessive allele B. And this column stands for it. 4 populations have 0 dominant B alleles. All alleles are going to be recessive allele B. We have 4 such populations. When all alleles are going to be the same, we say that such population is fixed for recessive allele B. So this is going to be this part of our answer, but we also have, take a look, this bar stands for the 8 populations where all 10 alleles are going to be dominant allele B. 8 such populations. So we have 8 populations which are fixed for the dominant allele B. So 4 plus 8 would be 12 populations which are fixed. Some for the recessive allele B or 4, and some or 8 for the dominant allele B. This question doesn't ask us how many populations would be fixed for the dominant allele, just how many populations are fixed. So we have to combine these two numbers, and our answer is going to be 12 populations would be fixed for the dominant allele or recessive allele. And second question, how many populations have dominant B allele frequency of 0.5 after 10 generations? And here's the answer. Frequency of the dominant allele 0.5 means 5 allele, because we have total number of alleles 10. So which bar represents 5 alleles? This bar represents 5 alleles. And how many populations we have? We have 4 such populations. So our answer would be 4 populations have frequency of 5 dominant B alleles, which is 0.5. And the last question, how many populations have recessive allele B frequency of 0.8 after 10 generations? And here is going to be an answer to this question. Take a look. We also can paraphrase frequency of the recessive allele B as 0.8 or 80% as frequency of the dominant allele as 0.2 or 20%. And this bar stands for this answer. We have 2 populations with 2 alleles. So here is the number of dominant alleles B, and that means that the rest 8, if 2 alleles dominant, the rest would be recessive alleles. So that means that in 2 populations we have 2 dominant B allele and 8 recessive B alleles, which means 2 populations with 8 recessive B alleles, which equal to frequency of 0.8. So 2 populations would be an answer. Probably I should do it at the very beginning, but all these numbers represent number of dominant alleles. So let's put dominant allele B here. So all these numbers represent number of the dominant alleles. For example, here it is 0. And that means that here we have 10 alleles which are recessive. So let's build another row here. So here, if we have 1 dominant allele B, that means that the rest is going to be recessive allele B. So 9, 8 here, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0 recessive alleles. So we have 4 populations with 0 dominant alleles, and that means 4 populations with 10 recessive alleles. For example, we don't have any populations with 1 dominant allele and 9 recessive alleles, but we have 2 populations with 2 dominant alleles and 8 recessive alleles, and so on. And this is all for today. Subscribe and see you in the next video. Goodbye.